The term spiritualism has been so worn out and stereotyped that it can make us picture anything from crystals and yoga to tarot and seances. Has it always just been a trendy aesthetic for hippies and free spirits, or is there more to the equation? My name is Amina. I would say my spiritual path started with an emphasis on the aesthetic more so than any set of beliefs. Before I knew it, what began as a few practices I resonated with turned into my main topics of conversation and manifested into my house decor and even the clothes I would wear. At a certain point, my interests expanded and I realized I need to do my own research and be knowledgeable about the life I'm living and the pieces of information I'm sharing with other people. This took me to the library and local used bookstores to read on all things Buddhist, Taoist, and Tantric, but still, I needed to go to the source. I was fortunate enough to meet with Ma, a Buddhist priest at a temple in Ann Arbor, to talk about Buddhism in regards to the material world.
Impermanence and interbeing both are very important when we consider physical objects. Interbeing basically tells us that nothing exists all by itself independently. Impermanence, everything changing all the time. So my next breath will not be the same as my last.
She explained to me the significance of each item on the temple's altar and told me that having physical reminders is important for aiding chanting rituals and meditations.
For those who are not of a particular religion, nature may serve as the altar. I had someone who cut my hair who one day I went to see her and she said, "Oh, see this Buddha I had." And what she had was Hotai. Hotai is known as the laughing Buddha with a big belly and is kind of an equivalent of Santa Claus. If she had known more, that's not a very accurate image of the Buddha at all because he was an ascetic. When things get into pop culture, it irritates me a little bit, but mainly it just makes me want to offer deeper knowledge to people so that they know what it is that they're looking at.
After a better understanding of the religions and practices I was taking from for years, I had to ask myself, was I appropriating? I look around my room and so many items are reminiscent of East Asian and Indian cultures. At what point does my appreciation turn into appropriation? Appropriation can be defined as an act of taking and making one's own of another culture. It's appropriation when one community is actively gaining from another culture while the other does not get the deserved benefit or recognition. An extremely fascinating example of this takes place in India, where appropriation of Indian culture and craft is sometimes endorsed by Indian business people themselves. The reappropriation of previously appropriated artifacts can affirm symbolic displacement when the original culture recognizes the social value of the commodity and its potential to reap the benefits of spiritual tourism. I was able to talk to someone who has seen this firsthand.
My name is Shubham Tambi, and I am assistant professor at Indian Institute of Crafts and Design, which is based in Jaipur, India. And they have been exporting to UK, US, Australia, and different markets abroad and globally. There is a disconnect which happens. So either these artisans are selling in fairs and exhibitions, or they sell through different brands. But majorly, I think businessmen are the people who are actually benefiting through these systems, because again they don't give really good attention to the fair wages are being paid to the artisan. They don't give enough attention to the even the authenticity of the process, material and technique, how these things are being made. The markets which are tourist markets are already, the shops are owned by businessmen, so there is less of designer participation in these markets. Whenever you have a demand for 1,000 pieces, you should be really sure that it cannot be craft. There is a huge amount of money which is being spent and taken in that market, but it doesn't reach the craft cluster. Like I saw a few days back, I went to Zara and they had these smaller purses which were made with there is a grass called fauna grass, so that is made in northeast cluster. So they just changed some of the design and profile of that purse. It's the same craft piece which we can see with a artist or an artisan from Northeast. Because I bought the same stuff for 300 rupees when I went to Northeast, and the same product was sold for 1000 rupees in Zara. It's a bad thing, because again, you're taking craft product, you're not giving enough credit and enough amount to the craft community.
What Shubham told me had me thinking, how did these styles get popular enough to be sold in stores like Zara in the first place? If we rewind to America in the 1960s, we realize that the peace and love movement, along with anti-war political counterculture, are largely to blame for the influence of trendy West Asian and Asian styles in the US. Music, art, religious beliefs, and fashion were affected by newly adopted styles, but this so-called new wave taking over American teens and young adults was not new at all. In fact, it was ancient. What happens when cultures and beliefs immigrate? They change, it's inevitable, but the ways in which they were changed and who is changing them is where the story becomes problematic. Edward Said puts it perfectly by saying Western ideas have made the Orient out to be a place of romance and exotic beings. Relocating a cultural artifact with an entirely different set of cultural meanings and connotations impacts how it's perceived and received by society. This creates discontinuities in knowledge and problems involving authenticity, like in this Nike ad which targeted yoganistas defined as upwardly mobile women who practice yoga in order to attain inner peace and firmer buns. The product was a cross-training sports shoe, unfazed by the fact that yoga asana is traditionally practiced barefoot. On the topic of consumerism, I needed to get a merchant's perspective. Daniel and Lori are a pagan couple who make a living by selling crystals, singing bowls, and other objects of this essence.
The rocks, I have wholesale sources that I buy from. There's some local, there's some across the country, all within the United States though. We go to a lot of auctions for the other items. If people have questions, we answer them the best we can.
We're firm believers there's no wrong path. We can all say we're pagan or Wiccan or whatever, but we may go through completely divergent ways, and that's okay. You've got to follow what feels right to you. There's an energy in nature, and there's a lot of things to celebrate that may or may not be deity resourced. I said I believe there's more than me, whether it's a power, an energy, a magic, or a deity, because I don't know. There's more than me.
We offer for sale a lot of the things you need for an altar, for witchcraft or paganism or whatever. And there's so many people who think, oh, I have to have these 10 things. You really don't need any of it. What you need is your own intention and put your own effort into it and figure out something to use. You don't have to use what somebody on TikTok or Facebook has listed out that you need.
Yeah.
So why do these ideas of Eastern religion and style resonate with so many? Buddhism refuses the tidy synthesis, and this lack of resolution is an appealing mirror to the fate of selfhood. Neoliberalism has failed to sustain the collective conscience and sense of individual will. Karl Marx describes a phenomenon in which people become disassociated from their own humanity. In the meantime, practices, Buddhism being one, thrive as people yearn for a deeper sense of connection and purpose.
A flower is comprised of non-flower elements. So if you look deeply at this flower, you can see the structure of the flower, its various parts. But then you also become aware that there is sunshine and earth and water and caring hands all involved in this flower, all intertwined with this flower.
I think today's world is about collaboration, and collaborative approach can take us to different dimensions.
It's important to educate ourselves in an increasingly global world. As long as we maintain respect and wander from pure curiosity, our true intentions will be realized. There is no price tag on true peace, which can only be found within our most inner depths. Thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I hope blessings soon find you.